On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's Fanmail Friday, and you shared how you're feeling about this team currently. Now that we're at 500, do you believe? Do you not believe? And what does this team need to do in order to make you believe? All that and so much more. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is. And yes, we are. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. We got 2 recently. Thank you for that. Kawads22, or is it Cowards? I'm not sure, but it was
cowards.
Great. It was a great review. And then, of course, Etherlast gave us a great review. So they set the bar really high, gave us 5 stars. So follow their lead and give us a rate and review on Apple Podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Time to subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
You asked for it, and the gang is all here. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We appreciate you being here. Happy Friday to you. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
You got the Super Halo Bros as usual, but we've got ourselves the busiest man in podcasting, Gavin Carlson from the Locked On Angels postcast. People have been clamoring for all of us to get together, so here we are.
Got to give the people what they want, right?
That's right. That's right. W. Gavin in the house. Hey, we're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball with you. Of course, Gavin goes live after every Angels game. He is there with you guys in the chat, with you guys in the comments, making it a good time. It's a Fanmail Friday edition, so we thought we'd all get together. Mike's going to facilitate the questions. Michael, feel free, of course, to jump in as we go through these questions and add your thoughts to it as well. But yesterday, we asked you guys to tell us what's your pulse on this team right now. Do you believe? Do they try to contend? Do they have any moves to make? Do they still sell at the deadline? Are they better, worse, or exactly a 500 team? So we wanted to get to some of your answers to those questions, hear what you had to say, and give our responses today. Mike, hit us with that first one.
Yeah, James Pack, he was our Hoppy bowling buddy, and he's an everydayer. He said this team feels different. It's starting to feel like the starting pitchers are a bit more consistent. And even when they're behind, it feels like they can come back and win because they've been able to come back and win late games so many times this year. They likely will go on a losing streak again. James has been watching this team for a while. Mm-hmm. And the depth of this team may not be able to endure multiple injuries. Yeah, James has been watching this team for a while. But there is definitely a cultural shift that's happening with our new guys. They just never quit. They play to the very last pitch. And I think that we should add some low-key trades for depth this year and see what happens. John, I love what James had to say there, especially that line, they play to the very last pitch. So, fellas, does that feel true? And does it feel like the Angels have the ability to come back late in the game when they're down? Why don't you start us, Gavin?
I mean, absolutely, right? If there's one thing we've seen with this team this year in comparison to years past, they like to score early in the game and at the end of the game, right? And it's nice, right? You sit there and you watch this team, and in years past, it's always been, all right, we're down 6-0 in the 4th inning, and the only question is it going to be 6-3 or is it going to be 8-2, right? You know you're not coming all the way back. But when you hit as many home runs as this team does, when you've got so many guys that seem to like the bright lights, the big moments, it's refreshing, and it makes every single game fun to watch. And absolutely, there's something about this team. Christian Moore, you plug him right in, and he continues to do the same thing that we've seen this season from the likes of Logan O'Hoppe and Joe Adell and Zach Neto. I mean, even when Kyron Paris and Matthew Lugo were up for a few weeks, their biggest swings were at the end of games in big moments. So I don't know what it is exactly, but yeah, they played the last pitch. Absolutely.
To me, it feels like when nobody's trying to play hero, then a hero emerges, right? I don't think Christian Moore was looking, I'm going to smack a 2-run home run right here. No, you just go up there and you do your thing. You try to keep the line going, and he thought he got a triple, right? And that would have been enough to tie the game. But fortunately for us, it was off the the Garrett Anderson wall, because that line was much higher when he was hitting back in the day. But yeah, I think that if nobody's trying to play the hero, somebody will become the hero. So I never feel like these guys are out of it. There's been, of course, games where you feel like, all right, this is how this one's going to go. But for the most part, very different vibes this year for sure.
John, Tom Hellman on YouTube has a bit of a problem with you. He said at the beginning of the year, you asked us when we should start believing, and I answered end of July. He said, John gave me guff about it. So we'll get to that in a minute. But he said, I still think there's a good amount of time to know if this team is for real or not. Our young guys are gaining a lot of experience. They're getting better. They're streaky, but they will continue to become more consistent with games under their belts. He also added that this team feels different, just like James said, because they have an excellent young nucleus, and they are still floundering, obviously, around 500. But if they are around 500 at the trade deadline, then he would say that you trade for the future. But if somehow they are like 5 games above 500, then they should trade for a decent third baseman, maybe another good veteran starter, and go for it. It would help to see, I would love to see us finish at 500, bring in some good free agents in the offseason. But if there's some way that they can finish and get into the wild card, then that would be excellent. Bring us back into contention, maybe some bigger names in Anaheim next year. We would get knocked out. If we get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round, he actually doesn't have a problem with that. He said it's good because we've made some steps forward. So he had some interesting thoughts here. So let me just recap real quick. He said they're streaky. Perhaps consistency needs to come with more games. If they're below 500, trade for the future. If they're above 500, like 5 games, they should trade for a third baseman and a veteran starter. If they finish at 500, then it might make it enticing to bring in some free agents. He even said the playoffs obviously would be a benefit. But John, let's start with, you gave Tom some guff? What happened there? You're muted.
I didn't mean to give Tom guff. I don't know when I gave him some guff, but I even went back and looked at his comment where he actually said, end of July, and I didn't see a response. So I must have said something stupid in a show at some point.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. But I agree with him on a lot of this. I mean, they're going to be streaky, but maybe they get more consistent as they play more games and they get some of those games behind them. Below 500, trade for the future. 5 games or above, make a small move here and there. We'll get into some of those questions later on about what kind of moves they can make. But even if they don't go to the playoffs, they could be a better team. And if they make the playoffs, I think that's all the more enticing to bring some free agents back. Gavin, what do you agree or disagree with there?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's pretty spot on. I don't know about the guff. I'll leave that to you guys to figure out. But
we'll sort out our guff, I suppose.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, he's exactly right. I think I've been saying it since the beginning of the year. The goal is to be as close to 500 for as long as possible this season, right? Whether it means that you get to the last couple of weeks of the season and you're maybe in a wild card race, or if you're maybe a few games too low and you're just playing competitive baseball as long as possible. It's about a competitive rebuild, right? Giving these young guys as many meaningful at-bats, meaningful games as possible versus last year where, halfway through the season, it's already over, right? There's not much to play for mentally, right? I do think that the inconsistency will be worked out as the young guys get more at-bats, right? The only frustrating thing is when it's the veterans that are inconsistent. Those are the ones that you want to be consistent, and there isn't much hope that they're suddenly going to change late in their career. But I mean, the fact that our most consistent guys are the young core, the Netos, the Shawnuels, Ohapi here and there, right? You're always going to be pretty confident about the team going forward when that's the case. So yeah, I think he's pretty spot on about the deadline and everything. I think the question is, if there is a small move here or there, are we going to give up future guys, or are we just going to make kind of lateral moves? We'll see.
Yeah. John, everydayer Brett Hutchison actually agrees with me. I said yesterday that I'd be happy if the team finished at 500. I think that that's kind of the lid for them in the offseason. I said that, and they kind of are right there. He completely agrees. He said, however, I still believe that we should trade away guys like Ward and Rengifo and maybe even Kenley Jansen if we can get decent returns and focus on next year. So I think the question here, and Gavin, why don't you start us? The question here is, does the team even reach 500 without guys like Ward and Rengifo and Kenley Jansen? And maybe we could even throw in a Tyler Anderson, Kyle Hendricks, or a Yoan Moncada. Are we where we're at right now if they didn't have some of those veterans? What are your thoughts?
I think so. I mean, Brett, my dad's first name is Brett, so I already like you, but I agree with the extra right now. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like I said, it frustrates me when the veterans are the ones being inconsistent. And if you think about the one word you can describe for even a guy like Taylor Ward, who's had a pretty solid year. I mean, there were stretches that he was downright unplayable, right? He's definitely had stretches where he's been maybe the best hitter in the lineup, but to say the team couldn't be 500 without him. I mean, Rengifo is really kind of underwhelmed this season. Yeah. We're talking about Rengifo last year. We were talking about, hey, do we extend him? Is he a guy that can be in the infield for the future? I don't think you really miss a beat without those guys, just because the Angels already are a roller coaster team every single night. It's, are they going to hit 3 home runs or 0 home runs? And I think if Taylor Ward's suddenly not there, flipping a coin between striking out and hitting a home run himself, I don't think it really changes that much. But what about you?
Yeah, I think you got to ask yourself, are you okay with something similar to 63 and 99? Because if you trade away all your assets that you have, which is great because you're getting a ton of stuff back, you can't look at the record at the end of the year and go, oh my gosh, they're 62 and 100. What the heck? This team sucks. It's like, well, no, you got rid of Jansen, who is being an electric closer this year. Taylor Ward is going to put up, he's got the most RBIs on the team right now. So people have to ask themselves the question, are you okay with a crappy record if it means getting value back at the end of the year and or at the deadline? Because that's what I think is frustrating is we're playing with like Eric Wagaman, who's having a good season with the Marlins, right? But he's a journeyman. And we were playing with Nico Cavadas and somebody we got back at the trade deadline who hadn't had a lot of major league time. So I think you just have to ask yourself if you're okay with a really bad losing record if it means trading away all those guys.
Let me fire these 3 at you, and then I'll get your responses. Frederick Chavez said, I'm torn now. The team is clicking. Ward and Rengifo are hitting. Looks like the chemistry is coming together, especially with young players. Nolan's a stud. Adele could reach 30-plus home runs. Andy McFly 9, shut up, John. Andy McFly 9 said, I think they can sneak into the playoffs. If they keep playing like this, these boys have some fight. And then Ian Alexander 1 on Instagram said, is it finally time to drink the hopium? This team looks different, and I love it. So, fellas, what do you think? John, why don't you start us? Are they clicking? Is it chemistry? Is it hopium? What's your verdict?
I think they're really getting it together. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've played half a season together now. And so, Gavin, you mentioned Rengifo. He's a weird one because last year he got off to a really great start, had a season cut short, and everybody thought, oh, he's the second half guy. But he proved that with consistent playing time, he can be really great. But right now he hasn't been great, and now it's just finally starting to click. I think about Adele and the potential that he can reach. Yeah, I think he could be a 30 home run guy. But can they stay consistent? I think is the biggest question. So to drink the hopium right now, I mean, it's fun. And I think everybody should be celebrating that, hey, this is a decent team. They're not world beaters or anything like that, but have fun, for crying out loud. Have some fun, because that's what we needed for the last 10 years, right?
The fun PM, can we call it that instead of the hopium? The fun PM,
there you go.
What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, I just think above all else, it feels like there's actually an identity that's being built, right? And we haven't been able to say that. The fact that maybe part of the identity is that this team is inconsistent, but the fact that, we don't expect this team to string together 12 hits and only strike out 3 times and play small ball and always execute the sac fly or the sac bunt or never make an error, right? We don't expect that, but we do expect the fireworks at this point, the late inning home run, maybe the high upside bullpen appearance from a Reed Detmers or something, right? If that's our identity, to be this young fireworks team that's going to get more consistent and have a higher floor as games go on, we'll take that, because right now, at least it's fun to watch and the team's competitive.
Absolutely. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, if the Halos are buyers at the deadline, who do we buy? Where are we shopping? And if we buy, then who do we sell? Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about, and we'll get into all of that coming right up.
Your favorite team is playing really good. They're playing the Nationals this weekend, and they should, quotation marks, they should win this series. They should beat this Nationals team, and you should go to the game and let Game Time help you out. They make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, so let them help you next time you go to the game, and maybe it's tonight or tomorrow or maybe even Sunday. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Of course, we've got ourselves, like I like to say, the busiest man in podcasting, Gavin Carlson, here with us, who does our Locked On Angels postcast. Gavin, what other postcast shows have you been doing throughout the year?
Yeah, so when football season comes around, we're busy. We've got the Rams every Sunday, sometimes Mondays, sometimes Thursday nights, as you know. And then my beloved UCLA Bruins every Saturday, whether they're losing by 40 points to Indiana or, having a nail biter against USC, I'll always be there for those. And TBD right now in terms of the NBA, as people know right now, I'm working for the Clippers, so not legally allowed to do
conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. By the time basketball season rolls around, there might be something going on there. But of course, right now, the priority is one thing. It's our Angels, and it's been a lot of fun.
You know what? We'll give you the Pelicans or something like that. How about that? Just something random. All right, Mike, we're close to the All-Star break, close to the draft, close to the trade deadline. So naturally, there's a lot of questions on what the Angels should do at the trade deadline. Why don't you hit us with these first couple of ones?
Yeah, Monstar877 on Instagram said, Angels, sellers or buyers at the deadline? Brandon Harris17 on Instagram said, if the Angels are in playoff contention, should we buy or should we sell at the trade deadline? And then James Russell Barton, Locked On Everydayer from Instagram, said, are we buyers or sellers if we're above 500 and less than 2 games out of the wild card spot? So need some wisdom here, fellas. So are the Angels buyers or sellers at the deadline? If they're in contention, if they're 2 games over 500, if they're within striking distance, what do you think they do? John, why don't you start us?
Yeah, I think that they will make, Gavin, did you say like a lateral move earlier? Right, because exactly. I think that that's something that they can afford to do, especially if they need to trade somebody like, well, we got expiring deals with Kyle Hendricks and Tyler Anderson. Now, they might not be the most appealing starting pitchers, but everybody needs starting pitching. I thought Tyler Anderson was an easy candidate to be moved. It sounds like that Perry was hesitant to do that because he didn't feel like he was getting enough value back. I feel like this year it's a surefire thing. No matter what you get back, you got to make that move, right? And so I don't necessarily think that he's the one. I know he's had a great first half, but the second half of his first half has not been great. And so you have options to go to in terms of starting pitching. Maybe you do stretch out Reed Detmers again and pull the trigger on that before the end of the year. Maybe you bring up Caden Dana to slot in that number 5. So I don't know that they would sell everybody if they're close to in contention, but I do think they have some that they could sell. Kind of the second question here we'll get to is being buyers and sellers at the same time. I have some thoughts that I'm going to save for that question. Gavin, what do you think that they do around the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Anderson was the hot name last year, right? And I was pretty shocked they didn't unload him. He was having probably the best half of a season that you were going to get with him.
And he's cheap too.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot of the underlying numbers were saying, maybe some of the wheels were going to fall off. They kind of did it as the season progressed. But I think the big name in question is Taylor Ward, right? I mean, it feels like every single trade deadline, his name gets brought up. He's a guy that if you ask a team or a fan base that doesn't watch him every day, they go, this guy seems to hit a lot of home runs.
The Divine Sports Gospel, they're a San Diego Padres podcast fan page. They want Taylor Ward so bad. And I'm like, you can, what do you want to make? Let's make a deal.
Let's talk.
It's like, I'll be playing MLB The Show and I'll be doing the franchise mode. I'll be doing a trade with some team and I'll just start randomly clicking players to see what interest the other team has. And then one guy out of nowhere, the bar will shift and you're like, oh, they really want this guy. It feels like that's Taylor Ward in San Diego. A lot of stuff there. But I think what they do with him is going to influence kind of what they do with the entire deadline. If you trade him, there's going to be a corner of the fan base that says we don't care about winning. We don't care about good locker room, clubhouse guys, stuff like that. I think that's going to really decide things. And personally, if you ask me, I was pro trading him last deadline. I'm pro trading him this deadline. I just think if you're going to make a lateral move for a veteran, get a veteran that's consistent. Get it, that's what we lack. We don't need another veteran who's a roller coaster, right? So we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
I think what Perry has proven to us is that he will always try to make this team better. Now, I know that the trade deadline, when they went for it, didn't turn out great at all, but his trades for like Carlos Estevez to get Sam Aldeguerri and George Clausen, awesome. When he got Logan O'Hoppe, awesome. And we all love Brandon Marsh, but to get Logan O'Hoppe, that was a benefit. So Perry has shown to make this team better, which does bring us to that question that you teased, John. Daniel Noodles on Instagram said, is it possible that we're buyers and sellers at the same time? Maybe like the Tigers were last year. They kind of bought, kind of sold, and tried to compete. What are your thoughts, John?
I think you can do it. Say, for example, you trade Kenley Jansen. If you're confident on who you can slot into the save opportunity in the closer position at the end of the game. And a lot of people say, hey, let's give Reed Detmers a shot, right? Like, let's give him that opportunity. So if you're confident in who you have in the bullpen behind Kenley Jansen, then yeah, I think that's a situation where you can sell Kenley Jansen and maybe even buy. So maybe instead of getting future pieces, you get a guy that you get for like 1 or 2 years. Think of Connor Norby, right? He was somebody who was with the Orioles, kind of blocked positionally. And so the Marlins were able to get him at the deadline. And now he's starting pretty much every day for the Marlins, right? Like not the highest Orioles prospect, but somebody who could definitely help them out. I think that you could make a move similar to that with the Angels, where you can get somebody who's got really high value like Kenley Jansen and trade him somewhere, get somebody back who you have control for a little while. You have somebody who's positionally blocked in the minor leagues who can't come up to the majors like a Connor Norby, but he can come up and help you right away. And I think that that's a way to be buyers and sellers at the same time. Mike, I mentioned this in our YouTube comments, and just to add a little bit of clarity, you mentioned yesterday the Tigers got really lucky. And when I think the clarity there is Tigers got lucky in the sense that they sold, but then everybody they ever wished would clicked at the same time.
Yes.
Right. So it's as if Joe Adell raised his batting average to 280 all of a sudden. Nolan Schanuel smacks 20 home runs. Logan O'Hoppe is the best catcher in MLB. That all happened for the Tigers at the same time with the players that they were hoping would turn the corner. So I say that because, yeah, they sold, but everything clicked for them. And you kind of wonder if the Angels could have that same luck. But again, I think if you sell somebody, you better be prepared to have somebody like Detmers take Kenley Jansen's spot, or maybe Ryan Zefferjon, maybe Sam Bachman, right? So you got to have options there if you're going to be willing to sell some of those pieces. Gavin, buyers, sellers at the same time, do you think it's possible?
I do think it's possible. I mean, I just think that you look at the guys we've got coming up, right? You bring up a name like a Caden Dana, right? Or a Nelson Rod, or a guy like that. There's room for you to give a young guy a shot if you give up one of your veterans, right?
Yeah.
I get in fights with people on the postcast. I'll say, hey, what about Lugo? Bring him back up. And they go, do you see what he's doing in the minors right now? And you want to add this guy to this team? I think that there is the same way I know you, John, argue for the past 3 seasons. Joe Adell needs more at bats. He needs more of a shot, right? I think there's certainly a scenario where you win in 2 ways. You offload veterans, and that almost gives an opportunity to a young guy where they're going to contribute maybe just as much. It might take a little longer. That's the buying, in my opinion, is buying into the young guys that you have coming up more so than trying to buy into a veteran that's got his own flaws and stuff like that. So maybe I'm a little bit more, optimistic about the young pieces we have, but I'm still leaning towards that aspect of buy into your system, your farm system, and trust Perry Menagin. Like you said, the deadline last year, you got some good pieces for not that much, right? I mean, what's Luis Garcia doing right now? I don't know, right? So I trust that approach above all else.
He was keeping the Dodgers bullpen afloat for a while there because he was the only one they could turn. Him and Tanner Scott were carrying the weight.
Yeah.
John, that leads to this final question for this segment. If the Angels do buy, and I love what you just said there, Gavin, like they buy in on their players. That's why Christian Moore is here. You're going to win. Joe Adell said that yesterday on MLB Network. Like, you're here to help us. Like, we believe in you. And because they believe in you, like, it really motivates him. And so it was a great interview. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you should check it out. But Paul Gears on Instagram said, so if they buy outside and they go after players, who should they buy? John, you have some really good thoughts on this, so share that with us.
Yeah, I spent some time thinking about it, and I look at the team, and I think, what do we need? This team has the worst K percentage in Major League Baseball, the second worst walk rate in Major League Baseball, the second worst batting average, and the second worst on base percentage.
How are they 500?
Yeah, exactly. I also think, what areas can they improve defensively? The infield is a huge concern for me. Kevin Newman, Kingery, Rengifo at third base, they're not reliable. Moncada is great, but he hasn't been healthy. And so I think that really stinks because I like Moncada. And I think when he's healthy, he's everything that everybody thought that he could be. So I take all of that into consideration. And I think I have somebody that the Angels should buy. Mike, Gavin, it's Xavier Edwards from the Miami Marlins. Here's my reasoning. Right now, as of this recording, he's got a 288 average and a 366 on base percentage. He does have an expected batting average of 266, but I'll still take that. If he regresses towards 266, that's fine.
That'd be like second on this team.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And to me, he's a real leadoff guy. I love Neto doing what he's doing at the top of the order, but imagine Neto doing what he's doing at like 4th or 5th, right? Yeah. Where he's had success in the past at like 5 and 6. Now he's stolen 31 bags in 70 games last year. This year he's got 14. He's got a 10.8% walk rate. That's exactly what Nolan Schanuel has. He's got a 14.7% K rate. He doesn't have a home run this year, but we're okay with that, right? We don't need any more home runs from anybody. We've got plenty of that. Defensively, he plays shortstop and he plays second base. Last time he played third base was in the minor leagues. If he's a shortstop, I could see him working over at third base if they need him to. But my only hang up about him is this. He's pre-arbitration right now. He's arbitration eligible in 2027, and he's a free agent in 2030. So the Marlins might be the ones here that aren't too keen on letting him go. So it might take a prospect that we're excited about to get it done. But what you're doing is trading your future could be for a right now and the years to come. So I'm not buying a ton, but what I would do is buy someone who can provide value this season, next season, all the way through 2030. Because look, our young core is here and their clocks are ticking. Their contracts are expiring eventually, right? When you've got a young core together like this, you got to get it going as fast as you can. So you can spend a prospect to get value back. And that right there is my buy scenario. It's Xavier Edwards. Let's give the Marlins a prospect that they're excited about, and then let him contribute at the top of the order and in the infield.
I love it.
Fanmail Friday, and we're giving the people what they want. The Super Halo Bros and Gavin Carlson all together in one place at one time. The ratings are just going to pop. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be awesome. We're rocking the stats right now. I'm going to fire some questions at you guys. Rapid fire. Would love for you to shoot back. Tell me your thoughts. So Easton Dutton on Instagram wants to know, what has Joe Adell done to change from being the mediocre hitter that he was to being such a good hitter in the last 30 days? His slash line, 287. 368 on base at a 644 slugging. John, you're the Joe Adell apologist. You're the fan. You lead the club. So why don't you start us?
I prefer Joe Adell expert, but yes, I'll answer this question for you. It's all about timing. It's all about his timing mechanism, getting that leg lift right, that foot lift right. Because here's how his season has gone so far. He was smashing the breaking ball, the slow stuff, but he was missing the fastball, right? Now all of a sudden he can crush the fastball and the slow stuff, the breaking stuff. So what he's done is he's improved his timing at the plate. So when that ball's coming in slow, he's smacking it because you have plenty of time to read that ball coming out of the pitcher's hand. I mean, obviously it's still coming out at 80, 85 miles an hour, but with a fastball, you've got to be quicker. And Joe has worked on his timing. And so that leg lift, that foot lift that he's been doing, it's not a huge like leg kick or anything like that. And it's also not as small as a toe tap. So I think Joe has figured out his timing. He's figured out his mechanics. And that's why he's improved over the last 30 days, because now he's hitting the off-speed stuff, the breaking stuff, and the fastball really, really well.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's really great about Joe is that he's been doing it at a consistent rate as far as like his mechanics, right? He had worked on a lot of stuff. He's been willing to learn.
He's going the other way.
Yes,
right?
yeah. And so Gavin, on the postcast, you get to like react right away. I think it's important for you to respond to that question as well. Like, have you seen the consistency in Joe Adell compared to what you saw last season doing the postcast and realizing that Joe Adell was really struggling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's two things. One, I think he said it in a recent post-game interview, the classic Johnny Washington phrase of hitting your pitch in the at-bat, the one you're supposed to hit. I kind of roll my eyes when I hear that. I don't love it necessarily, but it's true. He's been doing it, right? If you look at MLB.com, you look at the strike zone during his at-bats, anytime there's a pitch down the middle, he's not missing it ever right now. It's always, an extra base hit or a hard hit ball. And I just loved when he was talking about, hey, every single time during batting practice, I'm trying to hit every ball to right center field. When he said that, you knew that it was just a different mental approach and physical approach, and it's about using the mechanics to actually make that happen. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. You're used to seeing 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Sorry, John, I hate to say it, but now you're seeing, at least one hit every ball game, because at least one of those times he's going to take advantage of that mistake in the zone.
Eggy Nikki on Instagram asked this question: is Christian Moore the start of a culture shift? Gavin, what do you think?
I don't think he's the start. I think Zach Neto kind of has that same energy to him of being a kind of a firecracker, a guy who's going to, get up out of the dugout and yell and scream when something, huge happens. I think it's a trend now that's being, you're adding more and more guys that fit the same culture of, you say a dog, right? Or you just say a competitor, a winner. You look at what he did at Tennessee, right? It's nice to get a guy who's used to being around a winning program, right? And so I don't know if it's the beginning of it. I think he's contributing to it, and you're just going to add more guys like him. And it's going to be the thing that, again, our identity going forward.
John, Jason Presley on YouTube wanted to know about the value of having a starting rotation that from day one has been the same rotation. We're the only team that has had 5 guys. And since you're the numbers nerd on this show, you've got a lot of good stats there. What are your thoughts on this consistency? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Well, you come into each start knowing what you're going to get. Last year, you didn't know if you were going to get an awesome Patrick Sandoval start or a terrible Sandoval start, a great Griffin Canning start or 5 home runs in the first inning, right? Which it sounds like I was correct. He's kind of doing that again with the Mets, isn't he? Oh, wow. Who could have thought about that? Who could have imagined? But the value, Jason, in having the same starting rotation, the only one that hasn't changed in all of MLB is the innings pitched, right? Because there are guys, Soriano, Kohanowitz, even Detmers, they've never hit 180 innings. I say it all the time. 180 is the new 200. How you used to feel about a guy getting to 200 innings is how we should feel about 180 innings now, because the entire league has cut back on how long these guys go, unless you're like Chris Sale or, a veteran who's been around for a while. But I say that because the most important thing that this rotation needed was guys who could eat up innings and keep them in games. That's what this rotation has done. I know Kohanowitz has struggled, but I feel like he's starting to come around, especially in the last couple of games. I know that he struggled the other day with d'Arnaud behind the plate. I want to see more from him. I think they're giving him a chance to do that. They aren't saying, you know what, Kohanowitz, you need to get out of the rotation. We need somebody like, Clayton Kershaw to come pitch for us instead. No, they're not doing that. They're giving this kid a chance. And I think I like that. And so, again, it comes down to innings. The only guys who have ever come close to that or even achieved it are Hendricks, Anderson, and Kikuchi.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. And you can find Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Give yourself a follow over to at Gavin Carlson _ to keep up with everything he's got to say about his favorite teams, including the Angels. And of course, you can catch Gavin on the postcast that goes live on the Locked On Angels YouTube channel immediately after the game. And then you can find that in your audio feed as well. Mike, when we come back on Monday, what are we talking about?
Well, don't miss the postcast all weekend long. Gavin's got you covered right after the game. And then on Monday, we're going to share our takeaways from each of those games. And I'm hoping that our takeaways are, 1, the Angels won at least 2 out of 3. We're going to talk about the weekend series on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that. Gavin, it was a pleasure. Hopefully everybody got what they wanted out of all of us getting together, right?
Absolutely. Hey, it's like when you were talking to Chris Cortez and he said he was in the hot tub with Mike Trout. That's me right now, right? I got, not quite the same level.
Shirts off? Is that what we're doing?
Some of the goats in the Angels community, you guys. So, really an honor to be on here with you guys. And let's keep it going. We'll do one of these again soon. I know people want it. So we'll
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for being here, my friends. And thank you for being here as well to all of our everydayers. Until Monday, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you back here on Monday.
Gavin the GOAT.
W, Gavin.